and I'm not much of a gambler. I know you guys aren't degenerates either, but maybe together we can figure out exactly what Vic did here, and then I want to read you what he said about your Minnesota Vikings. He said, we looked at each team from worst to supposedly first with the over-under win totals and the price. And then he puts in parentheses, I think this is an explanation, minus 110 means to bet 110 simpletons to win an additional $100. Does that make sense to everybody? We also included
I'm going along with it.
How many games each team won last season in parentheses. He said the middle is very crowded as there are 17 teams picked to win from 8 to 9.5 games, which is the NFL.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
The
8.5 for the Vikings to me as that prop was absolutely perfect.
It makes perfect sense. And it makes perfect sense that the vast majority of teams would be picked to win somewhere between 8 and 9.5 because this league thrives on parity on some level, even though the Patriots are in the Super Bowl every year. I think they buck that system. But here's what he says about your Minnesota Vikings and their chances this year. He says the money line is even on 9 wins. I think that's what it means.
Okay.
He says, this is my favorite over in all capital letters play on the board. So he's saying take the over on 9 wins, partly because I have to lay another half game with the Eagles. Kirk Cousins was definitely overpaid last season, but he is much better than he showed, especially with the offensive line making like bullfighters too often. The defense was also disappointing. Listen close now, Vikings fans. Listen close, Manny and Judd. And I think Anthony Barr changing his mind on signing with the Jets and coming back to Minnesota will be a storyline come Super Bowl week.
Oh, I feel the explosion.
All capital letters over.
Get the explosion.
Again.
No, just keep doing it. Say it again and blow it up again.
I think Anthony Barr changing his mind on signing with the Jets and coming back to Minnesota will be a big storyline come Super Bowl week. Did you hear me, people? Judd is getting under the table. Judd's under the table right now. That's how scary this is. If you're watching us, because we're streaming live at scorenorth.com, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, Vic Tafur, the gambling expert for The Athletic, says the Vikings are his favorite over the 9 wins that Vegas has him winning, and has him in the Super Bowl playing the New York Jets. Hit the bomb.
Is it safe to come up yet?
I think it's safe now, Judd. I think it's safe.
This is like a grade school bomb scare deal with the Russians in the 60s where the kids had to get below the desk because everybody knows a nuclear attack is foiled if grade school kids are below their desks.
Desks are the answer to nuclear attack.
Ugh. Wow.
Has him in the Super Bowl, Judd. At least I think that's what he's saying, right? That's a very ominous sort of vague sentence that he put there. Are we all interpreting that the same way?
I'm interpreting it for sure that he has the Vikings in the Super Bowl. I am guessing he's saying against the Jets by saying the storyline.
I went to the Jets, his write-up on the – I went to his write-up on the Jets, and he doesn't
I'm not sure about the Jets thing. I think he might be saying the Anthony Barr returning to the Vikings – Super Bowl week will be a big story because he returned and didn't sign with the Jets. So I'm not sure he's saying against the Jets.
This is what he said about the Jets. They're the second most improved team in the league, according to Las Vegas. They have them going from 4 wins last year to 7.5 this year.
Okay.
And he says, and I get it. They added Le'Veon Bell on offseason and a young Warren Sapp and Quinnen Williams in the draft on defense. Not to mention trading for a $10 million guard, Kelechi Osemele, I think that's right. And overpaying for slot receiver Jamison Crowder. I know I got that one right. That's okay, though. Both those guys are perfect for young quarterback Sam Darnold. He says take the over in these 7.5 wins.
Okay, my only interpretation for sure is that he is saying that the Vikings are going to the Super Bowl. It's at which, okay, but in this league, granted, I would be a little bit surprised. But in this league, does anything truly, how much truly shocks you? Because, the Vikings with Zim as coach have been what? They've been down and then they've been up. And they won 13 games 2 years ago. And in their minds, they improved their quarterback last year. So,
I mean, Nick Foles basically turned into Jeff Hostetler in 2017, right? The Eagles quarterback, the MVP of the league, at least the front runner at the time. Carson Wentz got hurt, and then everybody thought the Eagles were dead and done, especially since Foles looked so terrible in the regular season games leading up to the playoffs.
I'm not buying what he's selling, but I also think this is a league where trying to sell that doesn't mean that you should be institutionalized.
I did a quick word search on his article for Super Bowl, and there's no other team in this article that he makes anywhere as close to that a declaration that a team is going to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
That's his favorite team on the board right now. Both to take the over on their win total for the season, which I guess Vegas has the Vikings at 9, and that they're going to the Super Bowl.
Is he saying then that Barr is going to become such a significant factor in this defense? This defense is going to return to the defense that we saw in 2017, and that side of the ball is essentially going to drag these guys to that success?
You would think so.
I mean, that seems to be the implication, right?
You would think so.
Of what he's trying to say?
Yeah. I read into it that they'll be playing the Jets when he said that story will be playing big come Super Bowl.
I think he might just mean that because Barr spurned the Jets at the last second and came back here, that might be the storyline. But he is then for sure trying to tell you that Anthony Barr is going to play a huge role in the success of the 2019 Vikings.
We got a few minutes. Let's take a look at what he has projected for the rest of the division. The Lions are projected to win 6.5 by Vegas. This is right up on the Vikings. Says they have been there have been many talented coordinators throughout the history of the NFL who get the chance to be head coaches and show that they are great coordinators. Matt Patricia is one of those guys, and we may be laying it on thick with the great. The Bill Belichick coaching tree is not very impressive for an obvious reason. Meanwhile, Matthew Stafford is no Tom Brady, so I don't want to hear how first-round pick TJ Hawkinson is the next Gronk. Bad teams don't take tight ends in the first round. He says take the under on the 6.5.
That's fair. I buy that. Yeah. I don't think I think Collar might disagree on this, but I do not think that the Detroit Lions are going to be a factor in the NFC North race.
I don't either.
I just don't. I think Patricia's a bumbling moron as far as he can't handle people. Like, I think he's a really smart dude.
Right.
And defensively, I think he's probably brilliant. But when you can't handle human beings to save your life, I think that becomes a problem. And this is not 1985 when that act of I'm the coach, you're the player, shut up and do as I say, that used to work. I think if that's your mentality now, and by the way, that is not how Belichick runs things, I don't think that works.
And the job more and more across sports, not just in football, but the job more and more is becoming managing people.
Yes.
More than it is X's and O's and all the other stuff that people think
it's a huge part now.
Managing egos, managing people.
And players today question everything.
Right.
In 1994, guess what they didn't do? They didn't question things. But that's how players and kids are now. So that's life now.
And I think the money,
you can't say you can't do that to me.
And I think the money plays a big part in it too.
Sure it does. But
it's hard to take orders from somebody you make 4 times more than.
And how do we suppose that Matt Patricia in a year's time, after a life of being an incredibly book smart X's and O's guy, has found a way to deal with people? It doesn't make sense. Like people don't change that much.
Right. Here's what he says about the Packers. Remember when Aaron Rodgers told Packers fans to relax 4 years ago? It sure seemed like he needed to take his own advice the last couple of seasons. It was clear he needed a change from Mike McCarthy. And while I was very skeptical of the hiring of the McVay clones, I was very impressed when I met LaFleur. He was relaxed and ready to turn the offense loose. Plus, the defense was addressed in the offseason. He says take the over on the 9 wins that Vegas has them win.
And he's in lockstep with me for sure.
Over 9?
I think
you're saying 10? 10 wins?
Yeah. No, I think the Packers. If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, I think the Packers are going to be a very good team.
And you know what? Aaron Rodgers was on Game of Thrones last night, so I think he's feeling a lot better.
By the way, if you want to see, speaking of that, the best Photoshop job I've ever done.
I'm impressed you did this.
Go look at Ramie is tweeting.
And this is not stolen.
Nope, I made that.
Wow.
I didn't take the picture. I
know, but you made it.
I put Khalil Mack in the picture chasing Aaron Rodgers out of the fire. It's really, really fine work.
Props to you.
This is what he's speaking
of. Good job.
Speaking of Khalil Mack, this is what he says about the Bears, who Vegas has winning 9 games. I am not sold on Mitchell Trubisky nor Coach Matt Nagy's reluctance to run the ball. When you just give away a back like Jordan Howard, that says a lot. Even worse, the defense lost KG coordinator Vic Fangio and can't possibly go injury-free and land on every fumble again. I have the Vikings and Packers being a lot better, and guess who is in their division? He says, take the under, though I will be happy with the push at 9-7. Has the Bears finishing third in this division.
So he's got. So wait a second. So he's got the Packers almost certainly.
He's got the Packers over 9, so that means at least 10 wins.
He's got the Vikings.
He's got the Vikings over 8 and going to the Super Bowl. And he has the Bears under 9.
You know what? My first inclination is to say I think that's too much of a drop, but Vegas people are very good, and I do expect the Bears to take a step back. The only thing that I believe at this point is that this division is going to be a 3-team race. And I think the Packers, with how things are now situated there, are going to bounce back really, really strong. I think the Bears will take a slight step back. But when it comes to the Vikings, I don't know what to think. So I guess if you were to ask me right now, I might go Packers, Bears, Vikings.
But again, have the bomb sound effect ready, Manny. Victor Four of The Athletic, their gambling expert, says take the over, and they're going to the Super Bowl.
So he's got him as a wild card Super Bowl team.
Wild card Super Bowl team. That's what it sounds like.
So essentially, he's saying that they're going to have to play a first-round game, which obviously has been done before. It's not unprecedented by any means. But he's got the Packers winning the division, but the Vikings. Wow, okay.
Kirk Cousins going on the road and winning 3 road games to get to the Super Bowl.
I'm with Manny. Woo. I'm with Manny on this.
That's bold, man. That is.
This don't necessarily add up, Manny Hill. I'm with you on that. Yeah, do you really
3 road games? Kirk Cousins go on the road 3 times and go to the Super Bowl.
We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
And I don't know on the Bears. I don't think the Bears are going to be as good as they were last year, but I don't know.
I think I agree with what he says that they probably can't have the and it's luck when it comes down to it to be as healthy as they were last year.
Sure.
And there is a certain amount when you have as many turnovers that are turned into touchdowns as the Bears had last year. There's a certain amount of literally, I'm not using the expression here as many often do, literally the ball bouncing the right way, whether it's on a tip or a fumble.
Well, Kirk can help you too.
Yeah, obviously. Some interceptions, some fumbles are caused and happen for a very good reason. Sometimes it's just the ball bouncing the right way and ending up in the right hands. And it's unlikely that the Bears are as lucky as they were last year in either of those respects. They'll need the offense.
I want to know about their quarterback
to take a step forward.
This is what I want to know.
Compensate for whatever drop off there is from the defense.